Charlie. How are you
Hey,
doing?
great to see you.
I know we're ready to talk about the June 2025 Visa Bulletin that just came out. So excited to talk about it with you. And we look at some family based sponsored preference cases. Any comments here you have for us?
No, I think that these movements are very encouraging, and hopefully, we will see some F2A movement before the end of the fiscal year. But again, these are very encouraging movements of the rest of world all chargeability area dates.
Okay, nice. And then if we go to all chargeability countries, so rest of world, EB1's great. It's still current. And we did see some movement for EB2 and EB3. So June 22nd, 2023 moved up to October 15, 2023. And then EB3, January 1, 2023 moved up by a little over a month to February 8, 2023. So any comments there, Charlie?
No, I think with these all chargeability areas, and we will find with China and India as well, that the predictions that the primary movements would be on a quarterly basis, October, January, and April, have proven correct. Now that we get into the final months of the fiscal year, they're more likely to have to make last minute adjustments. So we may see more movement of the dates. I am a little bit surprised in the rest of world's second and third movements because these movements have either gone beyond, reached, or almost reached the application filing dates, which were in effect for the month of May. For example, the second preference application filing date for May was only August 1st of 2023, and we see that the final action date has gone well beyond that to October 15th of 23. I think this is primarily because state is trying to gear up for the coming year by getting applicants in the pipeline for fiscal 2026 processing.
So you're talking about chart B, right? So you're talking about chart B and how chart B is actually behind chart A, correct?
Yeah, well, they went beyond for these movements in the employment second, they went beyond the May application chart in B. So the same thing for other categories. So again, the State Department's making moves in the chart B to accommodate processing in fiscal 2026. These movements in second and third are geared to try to maximize number use during fiscal 2025. And the somewhat drastic movements, as I will mention later, I think if they're overly aggressive, they could require corrective action later in the summer.
Okay, so we'll just have to wait and see, but it's still good news that we saw some movement in June.
Yeah, excellent news.
Okay. And then if we go to China, again, EB1 is holding steady at November 8, 2022, where it's been pretty much almost the entire fiscal year. But then we see some movement a couple months to December 1, 2020 under EB2. And then we see a few weeks of movement under EB3, China to November 22nd, 2020. So any comments there?
No, it's very good for the applicants. So, in a perfect world, these changes would continue. As I mentioned with rest of world, I'm a little concerned that the fact, for example, in the China second preference, the date has advanced about 7 months since March, 3.75 months since March in EB3. That raises my concern a little bit that corrective action may be required later in the summer if these movements have been overly aggressive. We've seen that in another category that we're not concerned with in this broadcast, but we saw that movement of the employment fifth preference dates were overly aggressive and requiring retrogressions. And we've seen aggressive movement of the both the India and China dates in recent years require corrective action in the summer months.
But you'll notice also that EB3 was faster than EB2, but now EB2 is faster than EB3, right?
Right.
So no flip-flopping going on right now.
Not
People are probably gonna
not
stay in
yet.
their lane.
No. So we'll have
People
to
stay in
wait to
their
see,
lane.
we'll have to wait and see if that situation occurs later on.
Yeah, okay. And then India, unfortunately, no movement. It's basically stayed the same. Any comments there?
No, this is what I would have expected. To be honest, I would have expected this for China as well. There is so much pending demand in all three of the India and for the same situation in China, employment second and third. There's really no need to be overly aggressive at this point in the year. They have plenty of time to move the dates later in the year if necessary and still maximize number use. During my time, I typically delayed movement of the India dates primarily until July or August when I could be sure that there was sufficient numbers available to meet the existing demand.
Okay. And so July, we might see some movement?
Possible, I would hold off maybe for August or even potentially September. Again, they have so much pending demand, and those cases are ready to be processed by the Immigration Service once the dates are moved. So they can move them essentially at the last minute and still allow those applicants their adjustment to occur. And the State Department should have been in consultation with the Immigration Service saying, here is where is a best case scenario for where the India second and third preference dates will be by September. Prep the cases, have them ready to go if and when we move the dates so that they can be finalized. And if the dates do move, that way it's, quote, very easy for USCIS to adjudicate the cases very quickly.
Okay, good. And then these are your predictions. So why don't you walk through them with us? And this is through September 2025, right?
Yeah, these predictions were initially established through April. We've left them up as through September. They've proven correct, as I mentioned earlier in the year. When I established these predictions, it was done in a pessimistic manner because I would always rather people be extremely happy that the dates moved at a faster pace and be pleasantly surprised rather than they made some type of decision on the estimates, which did not actually result in the dates moving as quickly as possible. And again, the dates move more consistently like these would in the first half to three quarters of the year. In the summer months, they're making last minute corrective movements to make sure that they maximize number use. So we'll see more volatility in the dates and these be less likely in the, say, the June through September timeframe.
Okay, so this is the June Visa Bulletin. So we still have July, August, and September. So we'll have to just wait and see. Any other parting words, Charlie, you'd like to share?
No, just that anybody that is eligible to process based on either the May or June final action dates, I always encourage you to do so as quickly as possible because the fact that numbers are available in May and June doesn't guarantee that they will be available later in the summer. So if you happen to be processing overseas, I would suggest staying with your originally scheduled appointment. Do not reschedule for a later month unless absolutely necessary. And if processing in both overseas and stateside, always provide any requested information as quickly as possible so that you maximize your chances of being processed in a more timely manner.
Yeah, and people always ask about dates for filing and when the USCIS will use Chart B again. And typically, I tell my clients probably not until the new fiscal year in October. So I tell people just be documentarily ready as well and have all your documents ready. So once the Visa Bulletin comes out and you see your dates for filing and USCIS is accepting, you can go ahead and submit your application in October. Pretty accurate, Charlie?
Yes, perfect. Since USCIS began using the Chart B dates for advanced filing, once they have shut them off, typically in the January to March timeframe, once they have said we will only honor Chart A, they have never gone back to allowing Chart B to be used. So again, do not expect any changes in USCIS accepting application filing date chart use until October. And the State Department will make changes in the application filing dates and act on them because they are doing so for people to prep and start submitting documentation to the National Visa Center again so that they can gear up cases that'll be ready to go beginning in October.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is get your documentation ready because hopefully in October we'll see some movement and the dates for filing or Chart B will open up. That's all I have for today. Charlie, anything else?
No, just everybody have a great month of filing and processing.
Yep. Thank you.